I'm the Principal Evangelist for Adobe Creative Cloud. And in today's session, we're going to be covering Premiere Pro and some tips about just sort of how to get started, how to navigate the interface, how to navigate the application, really focusing a lot on some fundamentals. So Maxim is here to kind of field your questions. This is really loose and free form. So if there's something, I'll sort of pause between sections. Everyone, I imagine, is at sort of different skill levels with using Premiere Pro. So starting with some of the fundamentals and some new things as well that are sort of new and better ways and more efficient ways of getting started editing. And then we'll kind of cover a bit of editing, a bit of storyboarding, a little bit of graphics, motion graphics, a little bit of sound manipulation, and then export. So again, we've got our project panel up at the top here. This is kind of where you'll begin importing and working with content. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to bring content in. However, when you bring the content in initially, this is typically what it looks like. And this is our list view. And this kind of gives you all of the raw details, raw metadata about your media. But this is not a great way to obviously begin sort of auditioning what's in all of these clips and what did I shoot and how to set things like in and out points and really start kind of crafting that story. So in this latest version, we have now introduced a new feature called Freeform. And you can access the Freeform view by this button here at the bottom of the project panel. I've got to see it on screen there, Freeform view. And Freeform view is just that. Like its name, it allows you to see all of your content visually at a glance. You can hover scrub. So as I hover my mouse over the clips, it's going to show you exactly what's inside the clips. If I click on a single clip, now I can scrub. You'll see there's a little play button right here. I can scrub through the footage manually. And that little blue section that you're seeing there, that's an in and out point. So I've kind of already pre-selected the piece of this clip that I want to use in my edit. You do that by simply hitting I for your in. And again, we can continue to play. By the way, you can use some standard controls, J, K, L, J to rewind, K to stop or pause, and L to move forward. When you get to your out point, hit O. And now we have our in and out section. You can stack clips on top of one another. And what's really super cool about this, particularly if you've got lots of footage, lots of content, you can select one clip or multiple clips, and you can actually drag them off screen. So what this freeform view is, this is like an artboard. This is a video artboard. If you're familiar with artboards from Photoshop, Illustrator, XD, it actually functions in exactly the same way. We've got our sort of global zoom level here. So we can see all of our footage and content at a glance. Again, I can move things, and I can really group and organize my footage by scene, by theme, by name, by time of day, whatever criteria you want. You also have all of that metadata that you saw in the beginning there. You can even organize by those metadata fields. So if we wanted to just lay everything out by media type or name or scene or whatever metadata you've added in there, you can do that as well. Now, the other really cool thing about this is, like artboards, you can also save your layouts. So as I was manipulating things, and I'm just going to move some stuff around here, and again, I can do some clip resizing. So, if there's a particular shot which you would consider your hero shot, this is kind of usually the first shot in a scene, you can make that particular clip larger to give it emphasis. All right, and then we can stack things together. All right, this should go there, this should go there, like this. If we want to take everything back to the way it was or create a new kind of preset look, again, if I right-click or control-click in the dead space, you'll see that you have this option here to save a layout as well as restore layouts. So I've got my original layout already saved here, lesson storyboard. Go ahead and click on that, and we're brought back right where we were right at the beginning. Now, once I've kind of assumed that I've got my story together, now I can simply select all of my clips, like in this top section here, and directly from Freeform, I can again right-click, control-click, and choose to create a new sequence from clip. All right. So this will take the layout, whether it's done linearly or, as you saw, I had things stacked on top of one another in kind of an accordion style. New sequence from clip. It will automatically build a sequence for me. You can see we're at the exact same frame there, and just assemble everything automatically. So already I've got my story told. I'm working much more efficiently, much faster than I was before, and it's entirely visual. Now, you still have, if you like sort of the classic ways of importing media, we still have other ways to do it. This panel here, which I'll bring up, It's called the Media Browser. Now, you've got this in Premiere Pro, you've got this in Audition, you have this in After Effects as well. Now, this is totally legit. You can certainly use this to bring content in. I'm going to just show you how this one works here. This, again, it's very simplified. Now, there's no organization in this view. So if I were to go into my, let's go to some of these drone shots right here. So again, you have hover scrubbing capabilities. So I can move over my clips. I can click inside them. I can set in and out points. But that's basically it. And that footage is still existing somewhere on an external drive or perhaps on your desktop. It's not in the project yet. You'd have to drag it either down into the timeline or into your project panel. So this is an okay method, but again, there's no storyboarding, there's no organization, and you're reviewing things one at a time versus having that huge canvas to really visualize all of your content. So I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it already or you're unfamiliar, check out Freeform View. Again, you'll see the various controls that we have at the bottom of the project panel, list, icon, which is just that. It's just a linear icon view of your content, and then the Freeform View, which really, I keep telling them they should just call it a video artboard. All right, so you saw how I just brought footage in. Now, again, whether you're using Freeform or the list view, there's another way to do things too, which is using the source monitor. So if you double click on a clip inside your project panel, this brings you into the source monitor. And here, let me go to a different section of clips here. Go to something different. Okay. This is an interesting one. Okay, so here we are inside of the source monitor. And again, I'm sure most of you who've done any kind of editing are probably familiar with, there's always what we consider a source monitor. So this is showing you the source that you're working on, and then the program monitor, which is basically the output. This is your assembly. This is where you're putting your story together. The source is where you identify the piece of the clip that you want, and then the program monitor is where you're seeing it coming from the timeline. So I'm just going to scroll ahead here a little bit, and I'll show you another little cool tip. So as I'm looking at this clip here, I'm going to set some in and out points, maybe right about this point here. I can also use my space bar to play back as well. L to shuttle forward, hit it multiple times, it'll increase the speed, all right? And let's set an out point right there. Now, a lot of times I'm using the source monitor to just quickly review clips, maybe change the in and outs, or again, if I don't have that many, it's also pretty fast to just kind of double click and insert them there. Well, I can now take this clip, and if I drag it over to the program monitor, you'll now see that we have these super cool overlays. Now most people never even discover this. So you can tell it to insert before the current clip that you're viewing, overlay on top of it, insert in between it, replace, overwrite, or insert after. So this is super cool. So if you take a look at where my cursor is right now, all right, we're on the last clip of my timeline. Go back up to the program monitor. Let's say insert after. You can see that it automatically placed that new clip with that section right after that last clip in the timeline. So again, lots of different ways to kind of just manipulate the media and bring it into the timeline, whatever feels most comfortable for you. In particular, though, this little workflow is super handy because a lot of times you are overlay, particularly if you're doing stuff with interviews and you're cutting to B-roll or something like that. You want to overlay, which means place it on top of the existing clip so that you can kind of cut to B-roll, right? We see a shot of it would basically feel something like this. You know, we see the shot of the kid cycling, all right, here, and then it cuts to the dad cycling, and then it cuts to the wheel, right? Really common in documentary style edits, really common in any kind of episodic edit. So having that drag and drop capability is just super fast, super flexible. And again, it just kind of keeps you in that creative space, always looking at footage, not dealing with metadata. If you like metadata, I'm a bit of a metadata nerd, you know, you can work that way too. But if you want to do everything visually, this is the way to do it, and you've got multiple ways to do it. So you talk a little bit about, again, some familiar features that are very, very helpful for, one, working with motion graphics or text in Premiere Pro, and that is the recent addition of rulers and guides. Now, again, this is like a fundamental thing. We only added it this past April, okay? These are the same rulers and guides that you know from Photoshop, from After Effects. In fact, these rulers and guides are even shareable. So the way that you implement them, the way that you view them, is you're going to click on the program monitor here. You're going to go up to the view menu, and you'll see that you have options to show rulers and show guides. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these on. So again, here's the classic ruler, right? And you can see based on the width here that we're at 1920 by 1080. So this is classic 1080p full HD. And then we'll turn on guides. Now, the guides function just as they do in Photoshop. You can create a guide and move it around. You can go up to the view menu here and add a new guide, and then you can simply choose the color, whether it's vertical or horizontal, and then you can simply drag them out and move them around. Now, what's really cool about this is that you can create guide presets because you might have very specific locations for things like lower thirds. Like this is a movie title from a short film called Century, and the director wanted to make sure that it appeared exactly in that lower third quadrant of the frame. And you'll notice that he has it letterboxed in that kind of CinemaScope style. So positioning is really important. Well, how do you ensure to an editor that it goes exactly where you want it to go? You ensure that by using guides. So what I'll show you here too is that, again, if you click on the program monitor here, we also have the ability to create guide templates. So these are just a series of guides that you create, which you can effectively save and then share. So these can also be used in After Effects. So let's go to something like, I've already got one here that he created for the Century film. If I turn that on, now it shows me exactly where that text needs to be and where the animation needs to begin. So I could even pick this up and move it. What's also really cool, you'll notice, this is also new in Premiere, that as you move objects around with your guides and rulers on, you have snapping lines, just as you do in Photoshop. So these red dotted lines are showing you, now we're snapping to the edge of the guide. Now we're center justified. Now we're totally center justified. Now we're right justified. So again, you don't even have to think about it. It just works as expected. Now there's a keyboard shortcut to enable those snapping guides. I like to leave that on by default. So we have this little wrench menu in the program monitor here, settings menu. If you click on the wrench, towards the bottom, there's an option here to snap in program monitor. So if you just leave that on, you'll always see those snapping points. You'll also see from that wrench menu, you can show rulers and guides. You can also clear any existing guides that are on screen, wind back, hit play, and now our text is exactly where you want it to be. This is also really useful for creating captions. And again, one of the things that I talk to a lot of students, talk to a lot of YouTubers and social media creators, captioning is essential today, right? Not so long ago where captioning was like, oh no, that's for people who don't speak the language and are hard of hearing or something. No, captions are a fundamental way for everyone to see what's happening in your video, because every service, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or others, typically as you scroll through your feed, the sound is off by default. So in order to know what's happening, you want to use captions. Now we have an entire caption workflow inside of Premiere. We won't get to that today, but you can still just type text on screen, which I'll show you in a moment, and knowing where that text needs to be typed is kind of essential, and you can do that by using guides. So again, if I wanted to ensure that this template was sent by the director, he always wants the captions to be right there. I can come up here and I'm just going to quickly create a couple of guides. We'll do a horizontal one. All right, and I just happen to like that color purple. By the way, you can change that color to whatever you want. That's entirely up to you. All right, we'll make another one here. Drag this down so that we know exactly where it needs to be. And now if we go up to the view menu, I can say save guides as a template. And now I can share this with my editors. Now, by the way, these files, we'll call this caption guide. These files are standalone guide files. They have, I don't remember what the file extension is off the top of my head, but you're saving them locally to your disk or wherever your project is saved. So you can stick these in a Dropbox, you can email them. They're super small, of course. They don't contain a lot of data in them. So it's just really easy to share. And then, of course, it just ensures that you have total, the right placement and flexibility when working with things like captions. Now, additionally, when you're working with text, we've changed the way that you create text and things inside of Premiere Pro. So let's go into the Essential Graphics workspace, which you'll find up at the top of Premiere. It's called Graphics. You can also access all workspaces from the Window Workspace menu. Now, this is really a great way to familiarize yourself with common panels that you'll need for different tasks. So if you're working with text or motion graphics, I would typically recommend being in the graphics workspace. So when you do that, first and foremost, you're going to see that you have access to this Essential Graphics panel here. Now we're going to get to that in just a second. But let's talk text. All right. Now it used to be if you wanted to create captions or any kind of text overlay, you'd go up to the File menu and you would go New, and then there was a new title. Now we still actually have that functionality. It's called Legacy Title because it's old. Because it's been in Premiere for literally like almost 20 years. Don't use that. I mean, use it if you want, but I don't recommend it. Why? Because it takes you out of the project. You're having to build something in this modal window. You can't see what it looks like elsewhere in the frame. Also notice you don't even see the guides in here. This is just kind of old school, and you'll know it's old school because you can look down below and see that there's all these text styles, which, you know, if this were 1999, you would be amazing. I mean, these are
Retro.
retro. Yes, thank you, Maxim. Perfect word for that. Use them if you so desire. I'm going to show you a new, faster, easier way, which is just typing right on canvas, which is what you'd expect. So in the graphics workspace, you'll notice that you have access to all the various tools. And at the bottom, you have the type tool. If you long depress, you'll see there's also a vertical type tool as well. So again, functions just as you'd expect. I can take the type tool, and when I click somewhere in the interface, now inside of Essential Graphics, it gives you all of the options for text as you'd expect. So let's just type something here. Journey is long, okay? Select all my text here. Over into Essential Graphics, what you'll see is that this is actually creating a layer stack. So when you type text on screen, when you add graphics on screen, imagery on screen, it creates a layer stack, just like in Photoshop. In fact, directly from Essential Graphics, I can click on this new layer panel, and you'll see that this will enable me to add text, pre-created shapes, which we'll get to in a minute, or you can import video, you can import JPEGs, PSD files with all of their layers, and build up this layer stack to allow you to add all these graphical elements to your video. Super important for social content, super important if you're just trying to augment it with cool text and imagery. Now again, as you'd expect, you have your align and transform controls. So if we want to align things to the vertical center, we can do that. We can align to the horizontal center. You've got all of your various justification controls here. You've also got your entire Adobe font list. So this is, just as you have in Photoshop, all of the various fonts that you have access to as a Creative Cloud user. Everything is in here. So again, you've seen this list in Photoshop. It functions exactly the same here. So if we go to something like Arial Black, turn that on, then of course you have all the various weights and sizes of that particular font. You can do the adjustment of the font here. Now if we want this to maintain a center position for captioning, we can do it like that, so that again it always kind of follows exactly what you'd expect. All right, all of your various faux bold, faux italic, leading and kerning options here, they're all here. And then you have the appearance panel, so how you actually want this text to appear. The color, stroke, if you want to stroke on it, and then the background. Now, the reason I'm going to show you this one is this is super cool because this was also introduced in April. So this is a responsive bounding box. So a lot of times you'll see, particularly with captions, again, I know I'm kind of relating this to captions, but it can be anything. You typically see text on top of some kind of a background. So there's a way to do this by adding a rectangle or a shape in the layer menu, as I showed you. But we just added this feature now because people were saying, you know, I use this so commonly, I just need a quick way to add a box around my text like this. I can then adjust the opacity of that box. I can then adjust the color of that box. So let's say that we wanted it to be kind of go with one of the colors of this wall here, right? Like that. Palish purple blue, all right? Click away from this, and you can see that we've got this box on there. Now, what's cool about it, I said it's responsive because as you type, the box automatically grows. Now, this entire Essential Graphics panel supports responsive positioning and responsive time. Now, again, this is something a bit longer form we can cover in a later session. I can also have Maxim point you to some videos that I've already created on this topic. But what it means, of course, is that as you type, as you manipulate text, that box automatically reflows and grows with the text. It'll do the same thing for vertical. It's just a really easy way to add a bounding box. Okay, kind of impossible to get it wrong. It always just works the way you want. All right. So a couple little things inside the appearance panel there. Super cool, super fast, super efficient. And you see that it added those blank text layers, so I can just get rid of them real easily. Again, if I wanted to do it the old school way, I could add a layer with a rectangle. It places the rectangle in here. I can then move this around, again, kind of snapping it into position and resize it, and then change the position of the layer and now have another box, but that was like 4 steps to do something with a single click, right? So again, lots of opportunities and reasons to use shapes, but for just adding kind of a bounding box background for captions and text on screen, that's the easiest way to do it. Now, the other thing that you'll get inside of the Essential Graphics panel is access to what we call motion graphics templates, or you may have seen if you follow any of our social accounts, we refer to these as MOGRTs because the file format is actually .mogrt. Rhymes with yogurt. It's kind of dopey, but whatever. Motion graphics template. So what is a motion graphics template? It is a pre-created, typically animated, lower third, background, transitional element, really anything that you can do in After Effects, and of course you can build these in Premiere as well, can become a motion graphics template. Now what's super cool about these is that this enables you to pre-create items that you'll always use. You know, if you watch any well-known YouTuber, well, even non-well-known YouTubers, they all have sort of a particular look for their text, a text style, how the text appears on screen, how it animates on screen. Well, this can all be done by creating templates. Now, you don't even have to create them. You can download free ones that we automatically give you via Adobe Stock. Now, there's some that already ship with the product. So you'll see if you look in your, I believe this will be checked by default, local templates folder, there's all kinds of different types of motion graphics templates already in here. So let's say that you were doing sort of a, a movie production, like something like that, or a short film, or you're kind of doing like a little, you just want some kind of credits, movie style credits, right? Those are some of the sort of things that we'll give you. I can take this template here. It's called angled credits. Let's go ahead and click on the I for info. This will tell you a little bit about what it looks like. And you can see it's kind of a very classic looking movie style credit. You can imagine that all of that text there is different layers in the layer panel. Now what's really cool about this is that it tells you the font that is being used, but you'll notice there's an icon here with the exclamation point. So that's telling us that I don't have Trajan Pro 3 installed. Well, again, Adobe fonts are part of your Creative Cloud membership. So any template that you grab, even if you don't have the font, it will automatically sync that font so that it displays properly for you. So we could take this template if we so desired, or here, there's one that isn't angled. You can find the non-angled one. I like that one better. Bold credits. Okay, let's take this one here. I'm going to drag this down into my timeline. Okay. Now, it typically takes a second. Oh, and here we can get rid of this one here. We don't need this anymore. All right, and we can hide our guides for a moment so they're not in the way. All right, clear them. Okay. All right, and now you can see we have this super, like, just classic, clean, it's full screen for you, animated with some nice motion blur. Hoping you're seeing that motion. The motion blur looks super cool. All right, movie style credits. All right, real easy, pre-created for you. How do we modify those? You simply select the motion graphics template, As I mentioned, there you go. Got all the various text layers. So company presents, change that to Maxim presents, right? Association with, whatever it is, you get the idea. All of this stuff can be edited right on Canvas, right on screen. Super great way to kind of get started with these. Let's take another look at some of the other options you have in here. Let's go to Adobe Stock. Now, Adobe Stock has millions and millions of images, vectors, video, motion graphics templates. What's really cool about this, and I think probably the most essential piece of this, especially for students, is that you can search on free content. So that's key. If you want to pay, you got money to burn, do it. If you don't worry about it. We've got you covered. And we are constantly updating these. Case in point, I've never seen these before. These must be very new. We now have a whole series of Halloween-themed motion graphics templates. And this kind of gives you a good idea. Now, these look a little childish here, but like if I click on the eye for this one, so this is a lower third. And by the way, when I go into the info button, notice you can hover scrub over the animation. So it's showing you what's inside of this animation. And there's obviously several different variations of a lower third. You can have all different types of things contained in a motion graphics template. Now there's a couple of different fonts here. It tells you the duration, and it also gives you a description. So it's a 1080 lower third. There's 4 different background styles. There's custom color controls and font selection. So super flexible. So let's try this one. Let's see what it looks like. So I'm going to grab this, drag it down into the timeline. Now again, depending upon the complexity, it has to load and install this thing. So we'll see how long this particular one is going to take. We're on our network internally here, which is not always the fastest. So if it doesn't load in time, we'll abort. It's telling us it's going to be another minute. All right, while that's loading, any questions on any of this stuff so far? Nothing. Silence.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear or asleep, one or the other. I'm going to go with crystal clear, hopefully.
Yeah, no,
okay,
no,
super.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, loaded.
All right.
Yeah, this has been super helpful. This is a super powerful demo for me.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Van. Okay. So before we even play this back, and by the way, this one, I'm guessing, yes, by looking at this particular one was created in After Effects. So what that means is that, and it's actually still caching some of the content here. Just like in After Effects, if for those of you who work in After Effects is not yet a real-time application in the sense that frames need to be cached in order for you to see them in real time. So you'll notice that as I am scrubbing through this lower third, okay, it's actually caching all those frames. So once I can tell that it looks like it's pretty much real time, if I go ahead and play this back, it's super cool. You can even see there's like a blinking, creepy, like old school film effect going on there. Yes, they're calling it vintage noise. Oh yeah, that's actually really cool. Again, it's fun, it's playful, right? So if we look at the global controls, so first of all, they allow us to adjust positioning, X and Y, and size, X and Y. You've got some checkboxes for lower third position, up, down, lower third position, right, left. Text controls. So we can change the title. So this can be presenting to students. Okay, and again, that font's too big, so it allows me to resize it right on Canvas. It's effortless to do this, okay? You've got title letter spacing. Again, we can change the font. They gave us all this control. Title color, the subtitle here, a look into Premiere. All right, again, it just happens immediately right on screen. Little RIP, nice. Okay, it's Halloween themed. And again, you've got box width. So they even gave us some really cool controls here so that we don't have to adjust the text size. We can adjust the box width, okay? And then down here, this one is super cool. That vintage noise, that was that scratchy effect you may have been seeing as it was playing back. Again, now it's going to re-render all of this as we scrub through it. But we also have a function in After Effects called Global Performance Cache. So if you only change a single element, it doesn't have to re-render everything. It's only going to render the stuff that you changed. So again, really cool, really easy to kind of get these things working. It's got some additional icons. So again, kind of showing you the flexibility here. This is something that was built into the template. Looks like there's 4 different icons. So there's a skull, there's a ghost, there's a gravestone. These are all the kinds of things that you'll typically see inside of a motion graphics template. Lots of different elements here. Sorry for going with a playful one. I was just trying to just do it live so you can see, like, I've never touched this one before. We're just experiencing it. And then you've got, again, some additional options for background scene. So let's say, oh yeah, so inside the lower third, this, like, you can see there, like a creepy castle with bats. That's one of them. This is just a different position. It looks like it's an inverted shot of that same castle. I don't know what that is. Oh, it looks like moonlight. So yeah, I mean, really, really flexible. What's really cool about these, especially for social, you can search. So let's like do something like transitions. Okay. Again, these are all free transitions. So perfect example, just looking at something like this. So this one here is called camera flashes. So this is just trying to simulate, again, this is a little hokey, this particular one, but sped up and desaturated, that's like a super cool transitional element that you can use between cuts. And it's free, all right? Now, some of these will tell you that you need to have After Effects installed because it's using some particular part of After Effects. Remember, I told you, motion graphics templates can contain anything that's built in After Effects. So that includes 3D objects. That includes Cinema 4D renders and rigs and other things. So these can get really, really complex. But again, there's thousands and thousands of these available to you. Let's go to just some others here. I mean, there's some really neat, like very broadcasty looking ones. Here's some cool, like a cool graphical. You see this stuff like this is actually really timely. You see this a lot in commercials, right, where it does kind of this color block transition. It's free, you know. And it even tells you, we're not going to talk about Rush today, but I'm sure many of you are familiar with Adobe Premiere Rush, our mobile editing, cross-platform, cross-device editing solution. This one is optimized for Rush. So you can use this in Rush as well. Again, if we wanted to take this, drag it down into the timeline here, like this. All right, let it load, let it do its thing. Transition to another scene, right? And it just plays, okay? And again, if we were to click on this, now we can see what editable pieces they gave us. And what you can actually see is it's just a series of rectangles that are animated. And if you look inside of the effects controls, here's all the keyframes for those various shapes. And what did they animate? They animated position, they animated opacity, all editable. Super easy, super cool. Thousands and thousands of these available to you for free. All right. So that's a really brief look at Adobe Stock, motion graphics templates. Again, the search engine here, lower thirds, lots of cool things, you know, that standard ones for social, standard ones for more broadcast type workflows. There's some really nice, beautiful text-based ones, lots of graphical ones, some really complex ones. You're going to see, you know, if you watch a lot of Netflix and things, you're going to see a lot of really common graphical elements. You know, we partner with all of these networks. A lot of these things get used, even the free ones. By the way, it's worth mentioning, one of our, for those of you who are into After Effects, there's a guy named Andrew Kramer who creates some of the most incredible After Effects content you've ever seen, including stuff for Star Wars and Star Trek and a gazillion other films. We even have some of his templates available to you, and they're free. I was going to see if I can find them in here right now very quickly. Maybe not. Maybe not because I need to show them to you right now. Oh, here we go. Yes. So check this out. So this is, again, this was an animation, a title sequence animation. I have a son who's doing YouTube videos now, and he wants like cool title sequence animation. So this one in particular, again, it just contains lots of different, you can see it's got like those light glow elements, really cool text. It's free. Again, you can access these directly from Adobe Stock. Some of these were created by a lot of our influencers. really awesome to use, and it also kind of instructs you on how to build these things yourselves. So if you want to get into motion graphics authoring, not only can you look at how some of them are authored in Premiere, you can in fact even open the motion graphics template. Remember, these are self-contained files, .mogrt. You can open it in After Effects and actually see exactly how it was built, how it was animated, how they did that cool glow or light effect or whatever it is. So really, really neat. Let me see if I want to see if I can just show you this one because it's so cool, and it's just cool that it's free. Um, Again, it's got a cache here for a second, but this particular one, if you take a look, so again, you've got text, title scale, tagline scale, and then he's just got like these cool, like just super cool lighting effects in there. You can enable, disable, and it's just got like some neat, just really modern looking animation to it. Again, I'm kind of scrubbing the frames to cache the frames here so you can get an idea. They're so worth checking out. So just use that search box, get creative, and you'll find dozens and dozens of things. Also, of course, you can search on this directly at stock.adobe.com and just look at the free ones. Let's talk a little bit about sound. Okay, so I'm going to move over, go back to our original timeline here, and we're going to go into our Essential Sound workspace. Okay, so this is quite possibly one of the most important elements for you to not only instruct other editors but other trainers on, because this really revolutionized audio mixing in Premiere. And I don't say that to sound like a marketing line. I mean, it genuinely legit has changed the way that editors mix audio, because today especially, again, it doesn't matter what discipline you work in, everybody's sort of expected to do everything: the edit, the sound, the motion graphics, the color correction, the finishing, the grading. And sound is one of those things that's usually at the bottom. It usually eludes most editors. And Essential Sound was designed specifically for that. It's a quick and easy way for you to be able to mix audio confidently with very simple controls. So I'm going to show you in this piece here how this works real quickly. So the first thing, the basis of it is you need to tell Essential Sound what kind of media you're working with. And we broke this down into 4 specific types: dialogue, music, sound effects, and ambience. So the first 2 tracks here are all dialogue. I've actually already tagged these, but what you can do is you can select, for instance, all of your dialogue, click the dialogue button, and then when you do that, it's now going to present you with all of the typical effects and filters that you would use to process dialogue, to mix dialogue. And by the way, all the mixing you're going to do in this panel. You don't even have to go into the actual track mixer, which you absolutely can. If you want to go old, traditional, I don't say old school because it's the school. If you want to mix traditionally, you can do that. The point is you don't even have to go here. If this intimidates you, you don't have to look at this. Essential Sound is going to do everything. So first thing is, let's isolate our dialogue, okay? So here's the dialogue from this film. Let's play back a little bit of this. You might not be able to hear it.
Think about goals. Your dreams are your goals.
Okay. So first and foremost, and I can't cover all the things in here, but I want to point out 3 really essential pieces of Essential Sound. Regardless of what kind of audio you capture, if it's interviews, if you're doing vlogs, if you're doing maybe it's just yourself, but recorded at different times and different takes, it's really common to have varying levels of loudness, right? Like, I speak for a living, so I'm really consistent in how I talk. Maxim speaks for a living, but we just have different tonal qualities. So our loudness and the way that people perceive our voices is different. Okay, if there's one thing you take away from Essential Sound, this is it. It's called loudness auto matching. So this is the first panel that you'll see at the top of Essential Sound. And what loudness auto match does is it uses Adobe Sensei, which is our AI machine learning tech. It's going to scan the levels of all of your dialogue. And this is perfect for mixed dialogue, right? Let's say you've got different speakers, you're doing interviews or different people in the scene. Single click, auto match. It analyzes all the dialogue, all of the actual loudness. And just to be really clear for you audio nerds listening, we're not talking about the peak level, we're talking about the average perceived loudness. and it matches all of them to the same loudness so that everything is consistent. Is that going to be your final level of your dialogue? Probably not, maybe not. But Maxim's voice and my voice and Van's voice, because I can see him on screen right now, will all be the apparent same loudness. This is huge. This is something which I can tell you. I just came from the IBC Broadcast Convention in Amsterdam. It's a huge broadcast convention, 70,000 people. Everybody who didn't know about this is using this now because this is the hardest thing to do, right? Everybody speaks differently. If you're using boom mics, lav mics, studio mics, headset mics, iPhone earbuds, they all pick up sound differently. This will make them all the same loudness level so that you have a really good starting point. Now, this is the same kid talking, so you're not going to hear a dramatic difference. I won't bother playing it for you. But just so you know, check that feature out. It is Adobe magic and Adobe gold in the greatest sense. Okay, a couple other things I want to reveal. Repairing audio. So, noise reduction, rumble reduction, removing hum and buzz, sibilance. So if you've ever recorded or worked with someone and it's very sharp, S's and T's, they really they sound like ripping paper. That's what that feature does. And when you enable it, you just adjust it via a single slider. So this is going to take care of de-essing. It's going to take care of noise, right? Let's say you're recording in a room and we just heard the air conditioner go on. Noise reduction can take care of that. You're recording outside, so you've got a low frequency, a truck rolls by, and the microphone picks up that low end rumble. One slider gets rid of that for you, okay? You just have to try these things out. They're amazing. Many of these are using Sensei to, again, analyze and give you the best result. Now, the other most essential piece that I want to show you here, and I will play this and hopefully you'll be able to hear it over the stream, is this function here called dynamics. And this is vocal compression. And what this is this allows you to bring up the level of your dialogue so that it's just really clear and focused without introducing any kind of noise or artifacts or problems, which you would typically introduce if you didn't know how to set an audio compressor yourself. So just to kind of show you, I'm going to turn this on and I'm going to start adjusting the dynamic level of this dialogue, and you should be able to hear that the kid is getting louder, but very clear and focused and just more present. All right, take a listen.
But in the heat of the battle,
Here, let me turn on the music so you can hear it a little
the
bit.
bravery can run and hide. Fear creeps in. Sometimes it all feels a little bit too much.
Okay. Now I'm going to solo the dialogue again just so that you can kind of hear the difference. So here's what it sounds like without the dynamics.
And sometimes it all feels a little bit too much.
All right, and let's turn it back on. And you're just going to hear that it's louder, it's more focused and clear, but it's perfectly executed.
And sometimes it all feels a little bit too much.
It's just even and clear and crisp. Now, here's the thing I want to point out about this. While we are doing this with single slider controls, what's actually happening is we are applying effects at the clip level in the background. And I just want to show you that Adobe Sensei it's not like it's one slider more or less on or off. This is heavy expletive stuff going on here. It's really amazing. So if you're looking at this, this is, by the way, this is a compressor, limiter, expander, lots of parameters, lots of stuff going on here.
Much.
Again, lots of gain reduction metering and various things happening. When I select this clip and I adjust that dynamic slider, I don't know if you can see it in the video here, but not only that line is the threshold, but below that, it's also adjusting the ratio, the threshold, the compression level, and the expansion level. So it's dynamically reanalyzing the clip, and as I adjust this single slider, it's doing all this other stuff under the hood, which is really, really super amazing. And again, just completely changes the way you think about kind of working with audio. So that's the dynamics control. All right, last thing I'm going to show you here is related to what Maxim, I think, was saying at the beginning, auto ducking. So automatically lowering the volume of music when you have spoken word, all right? So again, the first thing I do is I'm going to select all the music and tag it as music. And when I do that, you'll see that there's a function in here called ducking. Let's turn ducking on, all right? By default, it is set to duck against dialogue. So again, what that means is whenever someone speaks, it automatically drops the level of the music. The sensitivity, we're going to leave all of this at the defaults for the moment. Now the duck amount is how much the music drops down. The default is 18 dB. That's really quiet. So maybe let's change this to around half of that, around -8. And then the fade time is how long it takes to drop the music once the speaking begins, and then how long it takes to go back up to full volume. So we'll just leave it at the default. You'll probably be able to hear it a little bit better over the presentation. So once I do that, sorry, let me go back to the music here. I'm going to say generate keyframes. Now take a look at the music down below. Notice there's no keyframes in here. Generate keyframes. All right, Sensei does its analysis. And now if you saw it filing in, look at what it's done. It has actually scooped out all of the areas where there's talking and has automatically ducked the music when he's talking in a single click, okay? Now, if it's a little too sensitive or it's not quite sensitive enough, we can adjust the sensitivity and again, regenerate the keyframes. Sensei reanalyzes and does its thing. But let's take a quick listen and hear what this sounds like. Oh, hold on, I gotta turn the music back on.
But you keep going.
Music ramps back up.
Because you could do anything.
Back down. Back up again.
And when you conquer your fear, the whole world is yours.
And you heard it actually crescendo and ramp up there. Again, this is something that an audio mixer would spend a lot of time doing. Freaking Sensei, man. Mm-hmm. It just did it. It just works. It's totally non-destructive, and if at any point in time you want to go in and modify, that crescendo should be more, it should be louder, you can adjust the keyframes manually. All right? This is absolutely cool, so essential, and a really, really cool part of the overall workflow. And then, of course, the last piece here is just export. File, export, media. If you're going to any social network, YouTube, Vimeo, anything online like that, you're typically going to be using the H.264 format for that. Depending upon where you're going, I highly recommend checking out the preset list. We've got presets for Twitter in here. We've got presets for Facebook all the way up to 4K. We've got presets for Vimeo up to 4K, YouTube in all the various sizes, standard mobile devices, as well as, if you noticed here, VR. So if you're creating VR content, choose a preset and just go. Again, there's lots of stuff that you can do to edit and modify these manually if you know what you're doing. The presets were designed with all of these vendors in mind. We actually talked to YouTube and said, what are the best settings for a 4K video? That's what's all in there. It's done for you, super fast and super easy. And we've just got another couple minutes for a Q&A, but that's kind of a general overview of Premiere Pro.